What separates a decent answer from a full marks one? How can you improve your own work? In this video, a subscriber recently sent me this email, not only thanking me for my videos, but also sharing their incredible 34 out of 34 answer on an inspector calls. This is the second video in this series. This time we're focusing on a paragraph that achieved top marks for AO3. Let's break it down and see what makes it so effective. The idea of gender preceding class is one that is embodied by Mrs. Burling, who despite being of the greatest social standing, also falls victim to the strict gender roles of society. When attempting to threaten the inspector, she subtly mentions that "you know, of course, my husband was Lord Magistrate." Mrs. Burling holds the greatest economic and social status due to her being from a family of inherited money, but Mr. Burling has to work for his wealth. However, even despite this disparity in class, Mrs. Burling resorts to using her husband's status as a means of exerting power. She knows her status will not have any impact, as her gender almost cancels out her power. Later on in the play, she silences Sheila, telling her to be quiet so that her father can decide what to do. The imperative verb be creates a fake sense of dominating and that Mrs. Burling holds power in her command. However, she tells Sheila to be quiet in order to allow Mr. Burling to speak. She is so immersed in her assigned gender roles that in the process of exercising her power, she robs herself of it. Priestley uses Mrs. Burling's character to show that the issue of misogyny is one that knows no bounds and that it is a force that negatively impacts women of all classes. Now let's have a look at how this student achieved a conceptualized response, which is key for level 6. Instead of merely describing what happens in the play, they analysed how Mrs. Burling's dialogue and actions are constructed by Priestley to present his ideas, in this case a critique of societal structures. The student writes about how Priestley uses the character to demonstrate that misogyny transcends class boundaries, and that's a very clever idea. This shows that the student understands the text as a deliberate construct, which is an essential feature of the highest level answers. The analysis of the verb be in Mrs. Burling's line to Sheila to be quiet is a great example of precise, judicious use of evidence, what we might describe as writing a lot about a little. The student doesn't stop at identifying the word as a command, they explore its deeper implications, arguing that Mrs. Burling's attempts to assert dominance ultimately undermine her power because it reinforces patriarchal norms. And this precise analysis of method and effect is exactly what examiners are looking for at the highest level. Additionally, the student goes beyond individual language choices to discuss the play's wider ideas and perspectives. They link Mrs. Burling's behaviour to Priestley's critique of misogyny, showing an understanding of the play's message and purpose, and this demonstrates the ability to integrate context meaningfully into the answer, which is another key part of level 6. So how can you replicate these skills in your own writing? Start with a clear concept or thesis. Decide what you want to argue about the text as a response to the question, and let this idea drive your response. For example, this student focuses on the idea of gender preceding class and explores how Priestley critiques societal structures through Mrs. Burling. Choose your references carefully. Use precise and relevant moments from the text to support your argument. The more specific you can be, the better. Choosing evidence that has a deeper than surface level meaning is key here. Think about the writer's purpose. Ask yourself why Priestley chose certain words, symbols, or actions, and how these choices present his overall message. Context isn't just historical, it's about exploring the ideas and perspectives Priestley presents. The mark scheme, when we look at AO3, says ideas, perspectives, contextual factors, and that first word, ideas, is key. In fact, that word is first in the triplet because it's so important. The key thing is, as it has always been, answering the question. The questions are worded in such a way that every relevant assessment objective is addressed. So read the question carefully, answer it fully, and you'll be addressing all of the relevant assessment objectives, including AO3. If you found this video useful, you might like my guide to English literature, and at the moment you can get the ebook for free. If you buy my language and poetry guide, you'll get the literature ebook for free. Now those are ebooks. That means you get a file sent to your email. You can open it on your phone, your laptop, your computer, iPad, whatever. If you want a physical product, if you want a paperback, that's available exclusively on Amazon, and they are linked in the description. Here on the screen is the first video in this series that I made that went through another part of this amazing answer, so if you found this video useful, do go and have a look at that next.